These buckets of leftover food are from schools and department stores in Yokohama, Japan. The contents are Italian pasta, rice, and bread, everything which was made yesterday. Their fate is like that of Cinderella at midnight. They all must be recycled. According to statistics from Japan's Ministry of the Environment from 2013 to 2016, an average of 620 metric tons per year of edible food is lost because of expiration. In 2015, the United Nations provided about 320 tons of food assistance to the world. This means that Japan's yearly surplus would be available to supply United Nations food distribution for 2 years. How can Japan, which is the sixth in the world in terms of global GDP, have so much waste? Best before and use by date are two things that many Japanese may be confused about.
那日本的话，它主要就是会区分说它的有效期限跟它的赏味期限。
Japan basically distinguishes between the use by date and best before date, where the quality of the product will degrade.
它会慢慢的去降解。可是针对于
The use by date refers to food products needing to be eaten before a particular date to ensure food safety.
其实产品是可以食用的，它是安全无虞的。
The Japanese food manufacturing industry has a hidden rule. This is based on the principle of 1/3. For example, food manufacturers divide the best before date into 3 periods. The total period is 6 months, and manufacturers need to get it to the store for sale in 2 months. The product has not been sold. When it reaches 2/3 of the best before date, it must be taken off the shelf. Even if these foods are taken off the shelf, they are not, in fact, expired goods. How long can food still be eaten? Who decides this? To learn more, we step into the lab to find out.
这里的话就是我们在一个长期试验的储存条件之下。
Here we're doing a long-term test storing food at room temperature. Different specimens are taken and placed here for 3 months and 6 months. If it is confirmed to be hygienic with nutrition.
去确认它的卫生规格、卫生营养。
The lab will also subject food to extreme environment tests to see how well it is preserved.
This is constant temperature and humidity incubator. It operates at 40 degrees, which is higher than room temperature, and has 70% humidity. The customer's sample is placed in here to do a test.
Many think that this is a sort of torture test for food. Is this really the right thing to do? When the food is broken down and the number of cultured bacteria is measured over a certain period of time, this is a test of the sanitary environment of the factory during the time of production.
There are different international standards for different types of foods. Our own health standards are set at a particular level, and companies have to send samples. We have 4 categories: microbiological analysis, component analysis, physical and chemical analysis, and sensory evaluation to make a judgment.
Most foods are delivered by the factory for lab inspection. The laboratory does a number of checks and recommends a use-by date. However, in the case of Taiwan, for example, this date is ultimately determined by the manufacturer.
Taiwan's label is relatively simple, so it won't lead to misunderstandings regarding consumers. Some in Japan will appreciate best use by date, and distributors and outlets will use the best before date.
Taiwan typically says a product has a shelf life of 1 to 2 years. It is usually marked with the date of manufacture. The use-by date is the last time it is still edible. The general indication is the year, month, and day. In Japan, the consume-by date is before the expiry date. While Taiwan and Japan labels can be confusing, Europe and America are even more complicated. The EU wastes about 88 million tons of food per year, or about $159 billion US, and the reasons for food waste are very complicated. In this study, the cause of food waste is confusion about the best before and use by dates on food.
It's not just the shelf life that is determining this, but also the packaging, if it's damaged or open, or if it's completely intact.
那如果你的产品啊在保存期限以内
If during the shelf life period there has been any discoloration or strange smell, even mold, this food can be determined to be inedible.
来确保说你的食品是不是还可以食用。
Expiry dates applied to food product are merely for reference. Many recommend buying in moderation, not buying too much at once, as a way to cut down on food waste. We should all cherish food and pay attention to consume-by dates, shelf life dates, and best before dates. Heeding all of these reminders is also a good way to protect our bodies from spoiled food.